welcome to episode 6 of the Indie Music Podcast by alexrainbirdMusic. It's Alex and Beth here again, obviously.
Hi guys. Yeah, once again.
We hope you're all having a great week so far.
Yeah, welcome to another episode. We interview our favourite independent artists and bands and share exclusive live music performances. We are so glad you're here.
Okay, we're actually interviewing our first band today, which is really exciting. They are a folk rock group from Utah in the USA, and they're some of our closest friends. They're also the first ever signing to our label, Alex Rainbird Records, back in 2017. You may recognise them from their songs Sing Me Something New, Hey Hey Hey, and more recently Clover and Tell Me How to Get to You. Please welcome Zach and Michael from Michael Barrow The Tourists.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay! They're here.
Hello. It's great
How
to
you guys
be here,
doing?
guys. I'm doing great.
My job is just to be here as a representative of the tourists. So
Michael Barrow and the Tourist today.
And the Tourist, yeah.
Yeah, there are more of us usually, but today you just got me and Zach, which honestly, if you have to have only two, it's a pretty good two to have.
Just to introduce yourselves a bit more, do you want to give people a brief summary of who's who and what you guys all do in the band?
Sure. So my name's Michael Barrow, and I am in Michael Barrow and the Tourists. And I sing the songs, and I play a little bit of guitar here and there, but mostly lyrics and vocals is kind of my thing. And I'm from Texas, but I live in Utah, and I like the rain, but there isn't any rain.
Thank you. Lovely.
yeah, I think Michael and I need to switch spots. My name is Zach Collier. I'm from Vancouver, Washington, where it rains all the time. I'm not a huge fan of the rain, but now I live in Utah. I've got 2 little kids, and I've got a beautiful wife named Skyla. She's really rad. One of my favorite things about Alex and Beth is that when my son was born, they sent him a little onesie. He was born in November, so they sent him a Christmas onesie. And so he was dressed like Santa Claus like all the time. It was really
You
fun.
guys loved that onesie, didn't you?
That's amazing.
It especially worked because my son, when he was born, looked like a 50-year-old man. And it was hilarious. Skyla one time did like a TikTok thing where it's like, how old are you? And held it up to my son, and it said 60. It was
Oh, wow.
But anyway, what I do, I play keyboards and talk too much. And I also do a lot of the marketing and help with arranging and stuff.
Yeah. So to begin, how did you all meet, and how did Michael Barrow the Tourists start?
I can take this one. I'll start it off, and Zach can fill in the gaps. But when was it? I think in 2016, I was in a songwriting class at BYU, which is a university here in Utah, and a friend of mine that I met in that class approached me and said, "Hey, I want to be your manager." And I was like, I don't know what that means. And so basically we talked for a bit, and he liked some of the songs I had written, and he wanted to help me record one of them. And so we got together to talk about that, and he reached out to a few other musicians so that we could come together and make a full band arrangement of this song. Because up to that point, I had just done some kind of solo acoustic stuff. I didn't really even perform that much. I just had a few songs that I had written. And so he reached out to these musicians. One of them was Zach. One of them was Sandro, who is our current bass player. One of them was Reed, who is our current drummer. And one of them was Trevor, who is dead to it. I'm just kidding.
Oh, Trevor.
We love and miss Trevor so much. But yeah, who was our lead guitarist for the first couple years of our existence. And so we all came together. We arranged this song. It's a song called The List, which is on our first album. And we put it together. We went into the studio, got it recorded. And afterward, I know at least Sandro, I think it was Sandro and Zach. They walked up to me and they were like, "Hey, do you just want to be in a band?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we were a band. And that was so 5
cool.
years ago now.
Yeah, it was really fun because Reed and I, the drummer, we've known each other since 3rd grade. I've known him longer than I've known my youngest brother because he wasn't born then. So Reed and I go way back, and we were in a band together in high school, and we were in a band called Date Night. Me and Sandro and Reed were in a band called Date Night before we performed with Michael. So that's how I knew them. But we'd just broken up and we're looking for a new project. And Michael needed a band. And we're like, let's jump on this.
Perfect. Yeah.
In the words of Sandro, if I ever succeed in music, it will be riding on the coattails of Michael Barrow.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's 5 years ago, and you're mostly all of you still together and still living life. That's great.
Apart from Trevor.
Yeah. So we've gone through a couple guitarist changes, but everyone else, kind of the core group, has stayed the same, which is, I think, pretty rare.
We first featured your music on our Alex Rainbow Music YouTube channel way back March 2017. So I guess you'd been together a few months by then with your song Turning to Gold. And that was before your debut album released. So back to that in 2017, how was that experience of releasing that first album?
Zach, you take this one. You were,
oh man.
Well, you start. I'll talk too, but you were you're the one that even got us in with Alex and Beth. And I feel like you have something to speak to on this.
Yeah, so
Go on,
I'm
Zach.
good.
Don't hold back.
I'm
Let
good
it all
friends
out.
with. I'm good friends with Jordan Zabriskie of Cinders, and he was telling me about this great YouTube channel, and they have just great taste in music. We've been lucky enough to be featured on there. It's been huge for our career, and anyway, so I checked it out, and I loved all of the music, and it's been really fun because a lot of the music that I really liked, a lot of the bands that I liked and that I listened to, we're now working with, which is really cool. But I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then Jordan was like, yeah, Alex and Beth are trying to get the word out about their channel. Would you be interested in interviewing, Alex for, your music blog or whatever? Because I was running a local music blog. And so I did. And Alex was such a cool guy. And I was like, this is really fun. Maybe he'll like my band's music. I don't know. So I sent over Turning to Gold, but then he liked us and was like, if you're going to make a whole album of this, I would very much like to sign you to the label, which I was not expecting. I was just hoping to get on the channel. And anyway, so I turned to Sandro and I was like, we need to finish this record. So Alex was actually played a huge role in, in pushing us to get it out quick and, do the best we can. And
well, back then, the label, as I said, you were the first ever signing.
It just started.
Yeah, it was just started. Here we are now, 4 years
Still
later.
Here.
Still doing it, which is amazing.
Yeah, hands down the best experience of my music career. It's been really great working with you guys. But yeah, that album was a lot of fun. It was all home recorded. So it was mixed and mastered by Brian Ziske.
PTSD from this out. It was such an amazing experience, and I would never do it again.
Trevor and Reed did a lot of the engineering for the record. So we've got pictures just of amps covered in mattresses and, just all of this, really backwoods recording workarounds, right? I actually don't remember recording the recording experience of half the record. I wish.
Was it that bad?
Blocked
it from your memory.
Most of the time when musicians say that, they're like, I don't remember recording this album. I was spiraling in my drug addiction or something.
Yeah.
No, my
wife
was
going really hard back in 2017.
My wife was really pregnant, and we had my first kid in the middle of recording. So a lot of the organ was recorded in my living room after the fact. So, kind of fun. But yeah, that's the too long story of Juno.
But yeah, it's talking about that is fun. Because again, they're good memories, right? But it was so much work, and it's amazing to see kind of where we've come from then to now, and just the way that we've been able to record since. That's the only release that we had to do by ourselves, Since then we've been able to pay real people that know what they're doing, that have nice equipment and studios and stuff. And it's been really amazing to kind of see that progress, and also just the fans that have been with us from then and are still here. It's just been a really cool kind of whirlwind experience.
We noticed a lot of the songs, for example, Born to Love, Turning to Gold, which you mentioned before, and The List, which you also spoke about, and just in general are about the highs and lows of love relationships. So who writes the songs in the band, and are they mostly or all based on personal experiences?
I'll take this one, Zach. Hi, my name's Michael. I suck at love. But hey, that's kind of a thing that us artists do. So I don't write all the songs. I write a lot of them. Juno, I think all of them except The Reason I had written previously. Actually, they were things that I brought to the band and we all arranged together. So especially early on, it was mostly stuff that I had written. Just about everything comes from some kind of personal experience that I've had. I played a show the other day, just like an acoustic thing at a coffee shop. And I played a song called Momma Said, which will be on the new record. And in the chorus of Momma Said, it says, my girlfriend is getting married, but not to me. Right.
Yeah.
And so like I had said that, and then I was playing another song and I mentioned that, hey, this next song's going to be really sad. And some guy in the audience was like, is it about the girlfriend that married someone else? And I was like, everything is about the girlfriend that married someone else.
It's so sad.
Like it's all, a lot of it, especially of Clover, it's kind of a story of this one like love story that in the end didn't really work out, but also being able to look back and kind of reflect on it and see some hope in the future and see that like, things are going to be okay and maybe I've learned something. Yeah. But to answer your question, I write most of the sad songs are written by me and they are about real experiences. What's been cool and like, don't worry, I'm fine. Like I'm a happy person, but, especially with Clover, I feel like it was a much more collaborative experience. Clover, the song, the title track of the album, was a result of, we all went to this cabin to like have this songwriting retreat, and we sat down and it was like 1 a.m. We were ready for bed, but we wanted to get all our equipment like plugged in so we'd be ready to go in the morning. And Sandro started playing just the opening bass line to Clover for the first time. And we were like, oh, man, we have to write a song now. So we like stayed up all night writing Clover. But that was the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but that I really remember that we just all built a song from zero. Like none of us had ever had any ideas really about this song. And we just kind of put it together. And that was kind of a cool experience. So cool. And we've seen a lot more of that lately as we've been learning how to work together in that songwriting process.
Yeah,
it's been really fun because Clover, I think it's still the only song that we have, all 5 of us in a room just like writing it, and like kicking around ideas. It was exhausting, but it was really cool. So that song is like, that's why it's the title track. It's just because it's got a little bit of all of us in that one. But most of the time we write in pairs. So like, for example, Never Stop, I wrote, like all the chords and the lyrics and stuff for that one. But then Trevor and Michael got together and they're like, okay, how can we arrange this one so it fits with Sweet Honey and all the other stuff that we're doing? And so they took my song and they made it sound like us. And so we tend to run things through filters, that way, like with The Reason, for example, right? We were trying to make it full band and folky, and every time we tried to do that, it either sounded like a pirate sea shanty or bad Christian rock, and we just couldn't do it. And it's funny, if you want to hear how The Reason may have sounded, we released this like YouTube only pandemic album called Lo-Fi Jams for Strange and Uncertain Times. And it's got a little bit of the pirate sea shanty piano in there. Oh.
Really cool to like know more about it, like the writing process and stuff. We've obviously known you guys for 4 years now, which is a long time, but it almost feels like longer. Yeah. Feels like we've known you for all our lives. Yeah. And we actually visited Utah for the first time in 2017, and we watched you guys practicing in the studio, and it was such a cool experience to actually finally like meet you and see you perform. We've visited a couple of times since then. It's a lovely part of the world. What do you like the most about living in Utah, and especially the music scene there as well? Because you all kind of like when we went to Utah, everyone was like, why are you going to Utah? And we were like, because there's so many musicians there.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows each other. So we just wondered, like, what's your like top things that you like the most about living there?
I will say a couple things, and then I'll let Zach say a couple things. Apart from the music scene, and we kind of talked about this before we started recording, but there is so much to do here if you like being outside. The hiking and the biking and the climbing and the canyoneering and the snowboarding and the winter sports.
Skiing.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm a big fan of all that stuff. So being in Utah has been really great, especially because I grew up in Texas, which is flat and hot and huge. And like, you can't, don't get me wrong, there's some great stuff going on in Texas, but it's not outdoorsy stuff. So I've had a lot of fun just getting into a lot of those hobbies in the past decade or so that I've lived out here. As for the music scene, Zach will probably be able to put most of this a little more eloquently. So I'll only say a little bit because Zach's kind of our
he's
our
the
resident
music scene guy.
Guru.
He knows everything. And so, but I will say just. I will say there's been some amazing stuff that has happened here in the past that is happening now, and as things are starting up again, and now that we've made it through maybe the brunt of the pandemic, I don't exactly know what's going on right now, but I know that concerts are happening again, which is exciting.
It's opening back up a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, just a bit. So I feel super blessed to be a part of this scene here. It's been really cool to get to know a lot of the people here, to see people take off, and just go live their dreams, and that they started in the same town that I'm in right now. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I love Provo. It's really fun because Michael, like, this is his first band, right? Like his first everything. And it's been, Sandra and I talk about this.
I was technically in a band in high school called Mars Flytrap, and we played 2 songs, and I was the drummer.
I love that name.
What a cool name.
And anyway, we don't need to talk about that right
That's
now.
the most random name I've ever heard.
It's famous Flytrap, but it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sandra and I, talk about that just because, we've kind of been around a lot longer. Like, this is my 3rd band and Sandra's 3rd band and Reed's like 5th band, right? And so we've talked a lot about the music scene because the Vancouver, Washington music scene is not hopping. Provo is kind of a weird anomaly where you've got a bunch of Mormons who have grown up singing in church and taking piano lessons from their mom or whatever, but everybody gets together and they're bored in their dorm room and they just start writing songs. And we've got a couple key venues that are really awesome in promoting music, and one of them is Valor Live Music Gallery. So Valor is
love it.
Valor is just a great venue. Imagine Dragons, Neon Trees, the national parks, the Aces, Backseat Lovers. Like, there have been some great. The Killers just shot a music video there with Bruce Springsteen. So yeah, it's really cool. It's a great venue. But so Valor has really Corey Fox has done a lot for the music scene here. But there's also so much grassroots stuff going on. And I think it's just because there's a lot of people in Utah. Demographically, it's very Mormon, right? So very religious. And for those who don't know, Mormons don't drink, right? So instead, we bake monster cookies. We've got so many rival cookie companies, and we just eat. There's so much. And soda shops. And, we eat and then we make stuff.
I remember when we were at Valor and we saw like the ukulele or something from the Imagine Dragons guy.
Yeah, we saw all the
and
stuff
I was
on
like,
the wall.
no way.
Yeah, this casually it's
just on the wall. We were like,
and there's actually either their gold or their platinum record of Night Visions is on the wall there.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
God, it's mad.
So cool.
Yeah. Sadly, besides the practice session that we saw of you guys, we haven't actually been to a proper Michael Barrow The Tourists show yet, but we will go to one. But before the pandemic, you guys were touring kind of all around the country. What's been your favourite touring experience, and where's your favourite place to play?
I'm trying to decide if we should share our actual favorite or just some of the weird stuff that has happened. Let's start with the actual favorite.
I knew exactly what you were thinking, though.
Zach and I are like
Must
looking at
be
each other, just sort of smirking. We have a story for you that we'll share in just a
Perfect.
sec.
Okay. Amazing.
But so we've toured a lot of kind of the western United States. So Utah, Idaho, Las Vegas, Washington, Oregon, kind of that area. There is a venue in Rexburg, Idaho, which is there's nobody there except there's a university, and so that's why there are people in Rexburg, Idaho. And those poor kids have nothing to do. So when we come through, there's this venue there called The Basement, and it is always, it's very small, the ceiling's really low, and it always feels packed, and everybody is so stoked that there's a concert happening, or that anything is happening. And
Everyone goes mad.
Anytime we go there, it's just a blast. Some of my favorite memories have been playing at The Basement in Rexburg, Idaho.
Some of my favorite shows, I love doing So Far Sounds gigs. Those are the people who put on So Far are really great.
We love going to those. So
That's
yeah,
such a
people
cool,
in Seattle
like,
and
I
Las
really
Vegas
need
are-
So Far to come back. I miss it a lot.
But one of my favorite, like, kind of weird shows is we got hired to come play Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. And we opened for Gary Sinise and the Lieutenant Dan Band. They're a really talented cover band, and it's awesome. So they got hired to come play, but then we got asked to open for them. And it was just really funny. Like, we were playing on this huge stage in like an Air Force hangar surrounded by jets. And just a bunch of people, just a bunch of soldiers and their families like watching us. But we drove from Provo, right? So it was like a 12-hour drive in our van. And then we get there and the other band had like flown in and gotten driven, and they were driven from the airport, right? And we're like, oh, where's Gary? And they're like, oh, he'll fly in a little bit. And they just had their own private jets. We met their pilots and stuff. And we're like, all right, back in the van, you know. And then we drove home. So, but it was fun. That was a memorable time. I really liked it.
Well, and like, we don't even have a van. It was just somebody's car. You know, like, we're just, one day.
Gary's just in his private jet.
The tourists will be there and they'll be like, where's Michael? And you'll say, he'll fly in a bit.
Yeah, he'll parachute from his helicopter or something.
Yeah. Do we tell the Portland story?
Do we have time for the Portland story? You
go
tell
ahead.
it. Because I will make it a podcast in and of itself. Yeah,
well, just a quick. So there was one time we were really excited to play in Portland. We had never been there before. Are you familiar with the phrase "keep Portland weird"?
Weird in what way, though? What kind of weird?
I will tell you. So one time I was on a date in Portland. So I was on a date in Portland, and because I'm from Vancouver, which is just across the river, right?
Yeah.
And, we're just eating at a cafe outside. And then suddenly my date looks up and goes white, just pale. And I'm like, what? And I turn around, and we had scheduled the date on the same day as the naked bike ride. So just hundreds of naked people on bikes just drive by, chiming their bells,
Oh, I wouldn't be able to cope if that happened.
So Provo doesn't have a naked bike ride, unfortunately, but Portland does.
Is that a regular thing? Is it every week or?
I'm not on a lot of websites about naked bike riding. So I don't.
And we were playing a show there, and I think Portland lived up to its name. When we got, or up to its mantra, right? So we get there, everything seemed fine. We pulled in. The venue was somebody's house, but they had a stage inside and kind of decorated it up. We were super excited. We went in and looked at the place. It was kind of weird, but in a cool way, and we were really looking forward to it. So we dropped our stuff off. We asked the guy there where we should go to get some food. He recommended a great Thai restaurant, and we went there, and it was delicious. And we came back. And in the hour or so that we were gone, the energy had changed. And I don't exactly know. I don't know if there were substances involved. Anyway, so we show up and people kind of are just so we're getting set up. Everyone's kind of acting a little bit weird, right? We had set this whole show up. When I say we, I mean Zach. Like, he had booked the entire bill. Like, we had everything set up, and essentially we had done it all ourselves.
Yeah.
And people start to show up for us, right? And the guy that owns the place is like, hey, I have a band too, and I think we're going to play some songs because there are a lot of people here. And we're like, well, they're here. They're our fans, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're just going to play a few songs. And so they keep, like, changing the order of the bill, and, like, this
And
other girl that was
band, that opening band played for 2 hours.
Yeah, they didn't. They just kept
2
going.
hours.
And they were very bad.
2 hours.
And this other girl that was playing, bless her heart, she, like, had somewhere else she needed to be that night. I think she had another show or something. And so we had to, like, switch the order there, too. It was all this crazy stuff. And there one particular, like, memorable moment, there was this guy, like, standing on a chair, and he had, like, pink Uggs on, you know, those, like, terrible boots. And he was, like, standing up there, and he was just, like, yelling this quote-unquote song. And the phrase was, what was it? Hearts don't break, they pump blood. And he's like, hearts don't break, they pump blood.
That's true.
And
you'd expect that. You'd expect that to be in, like, a metal song, right?
Yeah.
He's screaming, like, you know, he's got good dirty vocals, right? But it was over a bongo, a bass, and a ukulele.
Yeah.
So it was
weird.
unreal. But we haven't even told you about the rabbits.
There were rabbits.
Rabbits.
There were cages full of rabbits in the other room, and then they brought out the rabbits. And then when you went into the bathroom, you just realized that like there were like 18 toothbrushes there. So this is like a public restroom for a venue, but like also people lived there, but they didn't have a separate bathroom for where everybody was living. So people's toothbrushes were just out. And then the toilet, it was like a toilet, and normally you've got like the thing where you flush, right? Just right above it at a reasonable height, right? They had lifted the toilet. So the tank was like 8 feet in the air and had a bunch of like weird tubes and like lights and stuff. And you had to like really reach to like...
I actually loved the toilet. I thought that was
the
fun.
toilet was the best part of that night. But, the girl that played with us, her name's Haley Lynn. She's really awesome. I love her song, Danny DeVito. It's great. Anyway, she had another gig that night at a bar. She wasn't expecting to play third. She was supposed to be first.
Yeah.
And they played for like 3 hours. And so she left and played a gig at the bar and then came back. So she had time to like go play another gig. And then come back.
Wild.
That is crazy. Why were there rabbits?
I thought we skipped over
you know
the
as much as we do.
Yep. So that was pretty much it.
Wow, I don't know how you can follow that up really, but let's try.
That's it. That's the show.
That's that question. So in 2019, you released an EP titled Something New, which is really good, by the way.
Amazing.
But it was a departure from your first album of like a more soulful, throwback, like retro kind of sound. So we're wondering what sort of made you, that change happen, really.
So there's a song we have called Sweet Honey, right? That song was written, that was kind of the first song we wrote in that style, and we almost put it on Juno. Like, there's artwork out there of like the back panel of the Juno CD that has Sweet Honey on it. And so we didn't end up doing that, which I think was probably the right choice. It would not have fit on that album at all. But I think after that, I wrote a couple of other songs that were sort of in a similar vein, like the song Something New. Here's another hot secret pro tip. Something New is just Sweet Honey slower. It's the exact same chords. Everything about it is the same. But I was like learning, and Trevor and I were roommates at the time, and I was trying to like, he was a big inspiration for me musically, and I was trying to sort of learn and get better at guitar. And so I essentially wrote Sweet Honey again, just slower. But I wrote a couple of other songs in a similar style, and they all kind of were a vehicle for Sweet Honey, right? So we put all these together, and then Sweet Honey was able to be on that EP as well. And that was a fun little stint. It wasn't Zach's favorite part of being in Michael Barrow and the Tourists, if I remember correctly. Not as much his style, but I had a great time.
Yeah, very much more like a pop guy, and I had never. I mean, I look back and I love that record just because these guys introduced me to a bunch of new music. But like, I had to learn how to play the organ.
Yeah.
Casual.
So you didn't think you'd do.
Yeah, I just had to learn a bunch of like new instruments or whatever. So that was really challenging. Was I learned a lot about Wurlitzers and a lot about Anyway, just organ stops, and there's just so much more. Like the organ has keys on it, like a piano. It is not a piano. Like it. There's just a lot of technique and a lot of stuff you have to do with your feet. That I'm not. I wasn't used to. So yeah. So that was an adventure. But.
Yeah, so Sweet Honey from That's Something New EP, it's currently your biggest single. It's got close to 850,000 Spotify streams.
Mad.
Which is partly down to that Turkish editorial playlist. So
thanks, Turkey.
Yeah, thanks, Turkey. Big up, Turkey. Why do you think that particular song has performed so well? And do you have any plans to play some shows in Turkey for all your new Turkish listeners?
Currently, no, we have no plans to play in Turkey.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
The Turkish followers now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
left.
like never. I just say like we haven't booked any flights.
Yeah.
That's fun.
The pandemic has made it a little difficult.
Of course.
Right. Yeah, we can blame it on the pandemic. Otherwise, we were totally ready to go to Turkey. I think we still haven't played in like New York, and so maybe we should like
taking it slow.
But, I love the idea. Obviously, who doesn't love the idea of doing like a world tour and like going over and playing in different parts of the world that I would never even dream of playing in. So I would love to do that one day. I don't know, like, obviously we've got a lot of people listening to us in Turkey. I don't know how spread out they are. Like, I feel like we would probably just show up to Turkey. We would have no idea how to talk to anyone. We would hopefully show up at the right venue, and then maybe we'd be alone in there. I don't know how to market a concert in Turkey. But that was the second.
If anyone is
question.
Listening who could help us play in Turkey, let us know. Reach out.
Yes.
We need an agent,
touch.
a translator.
That was the second part of the question. The first part was why did Sweet Honey perform as well as it did?
Yeah.
Zach, do you have any theories? Because I don't know.
I've got two.
It's really catchy.
One, it's catchy and it's our happiest song, right? So I think that people like feeling good, and the playlist that we're on is very much like a, there's like Colby Calais on there, and some Jason Mraz, and just like really feel good, laid back songs. And so I think that it just fit, that vibe, which is a really good vibe that people like having on. But also we're really proud of this arrangement. Like, that song is deceptively complicated. Just like all of the hits and the bridge with the drum solo. And I don't know, we just pulled out all the stops in arranging that one, because that one was actually really tough for us to arrange.
Like, if we ever have a drummer or a guitarist like that needs to join us on a set, like if Reed's out of town or something's going on, that song is always really hard to teach the new person, because you get in, you're like, oh, Sweet Honey, and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard that song, and they start drumming along, and then they're like, wait, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you don't notice that it's kind of tricky and kind of complex, but it is, and I think that's kind of part of what makes it fun and interesting for people to listen to.
Yeah, definitely. Who doesn't love Sweet Honey?
And it's obviously one they've got to play, since it's your biggest on Spotify.
Yeah, it's your biggest one.
So
How can you not play it?
They've got no choice.
It's the one we'll never get away from, which is okay.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. But yeah, on to your upcoming second album now, Clover, which will actually be released by the time this episode goes live. Woo! So exciting.
Yay, congrats.
And congrats on the album. How does this album differ from the previous one? And do each of you have a favourite song from that album, and why is it your favourite?
Well, how does it differ from Something New? And we kind of touched on this already, I guess. Something New in itself was sort of a departure from our sound that we had established with Juno. So Juno was pretty folky overall. I played almost exclusively acoustic guitar. Actually, I think exclusively acoustic guitar on that whole album. And Something New, I think I exclusively played an electric guitar. And on Clover, I play both at the same time. Not at the same time. But obviously there's more to like a folk sound or a not folk sound than whether or not it's an acoustic guitar. But I think Clover is almost sort of a marriage of the kind of the sounds that we've had in the past. It's not quite as bluesy, right? But it's not. It's got some like folksy lyrics and song structure, but we've also kind of introduced some other like pop elements or I don't know, things that wouldn't generally be considered quote unquote folk music. I feel like that genre has opened up a lot in the past, 10, 20 years or so, and folk, is different than what folk was, back in the day. But
yeah, definitely.
I think it's different in that it kind of harkens back to some of our earlier stuff, while still retaining a lot of what we learned as we've just continued to grow as artists together.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, what more could you ask for than that? That's it's the ultimate Michael Barrow The Tourists album, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
Make sure you go check it out, everyone.
So that was the first part, and then what's our favorite track?
Favorite tracks.
Yeah.
Do you have one, Zach? I'm thinking.
I do. My favorite song on the record, I've got a bunch. I'm personally really excited for What Are We Gonna Do and Show Me Your Love, because Mark's guitar solos on those songs are incredible. I don't know how he made those sounds. And he's really funny because he tends to only play a guitar solo one way once. He just walks in and plays it, and then he just kind of zones out and can't remember what he played.
Aww.
But they are two of my favorite guitar solos of all time. But yeah, in terms of whole songs, I really like Momma Said and Tell Me How to Get to You.
Yeah.
Those are good.
I think Momma Said's my favourite.
Yeah, and Michael is kind enough to do an acoustic performance of Momma Said later on. If you stick around, we can't wait for that.
Yeah,
Very
look out
exciting.
for it.
Look out for that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I really like that song. And that one is about me and my mom, and just like I usually talk to her when like things are happening in my life, which is that was like the vaguest thing. When things are happening, I talk to my mom.
Shout out Michael's
but it's been
mom.
weird. Yeah. So my parents actually live in Russia right now, which is a whole story that we don't need to get into. But it's been weird, like trying to talk to my parents because it's a 9-hour time difference, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not what this question is about. My favorite song on the album, speaking of time differences, 6023 is just a huge one for me. That's like probably the most honest song I've ever written. I was really trying to work through this like relationship that hadn't gone well. And I thought, maybe if I just write everything down, just like an autobiography of like what happened between us, it'll help me to move on. And so I wrote the song, and I get to yell in it. It's really cathartic. People connect to it when we usually end our shows with it, just because it's this big like moment where we can all just like feel feelings together. And so I really love that song.
I love that one as well.
Apart from that, Tell Me How to Get to You I've really enjoyed, and YOU, which is going to be the first track on the album. It's been fun, like kind of writing these more up-tempo jams together, and so we're excited about those as well.
Yeah, I think those are some of our favourites, aren't
they? Definitely. You named pretty much all of our... But we love them all,
but yeah. So that actually ties in really nicely. We've listened through Clover a lot now. We noticed the first sort of, I guess, half was quite upbeat and pop rocky, and the last few are a lot more like folky and like laid back. So was this split intentional or not?
It was.
Yeah.
We so it's interesting. When we were putting this album together, it wasn't necessarily it wasn't written with like a storyline in mind. But after we had all of these songs and like looked back at them and what they all mean, we were able to kind of put them in an order that sort of did tell a story, right?
Yeah.
And so kind of about this relationship that's new and exciting and is starting. And so obviously the songs are going to be a little more positive, a little more upbeat and energetic. And then going through like first fights or like disagreements where it gets a little more angsty. and then 6023 happens, right, where it's just like this cinematic orchestral like sob fest. And then so that's like the lowest low probably.
Second place.
Second place is the lowest low. You're right, but so working through that, and then especially because like 6023 ends, and then second place is next, and it's just me, right, which is symbolic as well, because there's I'm alone, right? Yeah. And so you sing this song, empty your lungs to an empty room, right? And just like go for it. And but after that, it gets a little more introspective, and like I talk to my mom, right?
Yeah.
And it's a little more about kind of realizing that life happens, and things are going to happen that aren't always happy, but we can find learning experiences even in difficult situations. And then so the album kind of goes through that a little bit of introspection, a little bit of reflection on the past, and like nostalgia for childhood and things, and then sort of a bit of a hopeful resolution toward the end. So so that's kind of how we split it up, and it just so happened that like it was a little more folky at the end there, and a little more full band energetic kind of stuff at the front.
I love that.
That's awesome.
And I feel like this record is like Juno 2 in a lot of ways, but it's Juno in like parallel universes, right? So I feel like the first 7 tracks are like the sequel to Sing Me Something New, right? That kind of vein. And then the rest, the back half of the record is like a sequel to Hey, Hey, Hey,
yeah, I get that. Yeah.
That sort of thing, or Sad Song, One of my favorite little details about the record is Wait. So that last song, the closer, is just such a relaxing song to me, and it always gave me just like nice comforting vibes at the end. And I was like, what if we just get some audio of the ocean and then played it underneath the track? And so that's what we did. So if you listen, you can.
I didn't notice that.
Feel like
no, I didn't know that.
Oh, I bet we'll hear it all the time now.
Yeah, that's what we'll hear.
That's so cool.
It's like a seashell. If you hold the song up to your ear, you can hear the ocean in it.
That's brilliant. So cool. So interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Just really excited about this album.
Yeah.
And for everyone to listen to it.
Everyone can now listen to it.
Yeah, everyone go and listen to it.
And hear the sea.
Yeah, go listen to it.
Okay, next one. What do you think has changed the most about the band and the world around you since you started Michael Barrow The Tourists? That's quite a deep one.
Deep, yeah.
Going in deep now.
I mean, there's some like obvious things that have changed about the band. Like we've gone through a couple of guitarists, right? We've talked about how our sound has sort of evolved over time.
Yeah.
Well, evolved and then like revolved. I don't know if that's a word. Well, it is a word, but that's not what it means.
You just made it up.
But yeah,
that's all good.
but kind of, and that's very common, in music to have an artist like sort of go through different phases and like experiment with different aspects of their sound.
Yeah.
I think something that has changed within the band over the past 5 years is we've all become like really good friends. Like when we first started, it was when we sat down in that first meeting to like arrange the list, I was terrified. I was so intimidated because I'm like, I just knew Grant, my friend, was reaching out to these guys, these musicians. And I'm like, these are real musicians. I'm just some kid that's like written a couple of songs. And it's funny because I was talking to Sandro, our bass player, later, like years later, and mentioning that was how I was feeling at that time. He's like, dude, we were all intimidated too, because you're like this songwriter and we're coming in and we have to like arrange the song. So I just like the idea of the 5 of us sitting in this room terrified of each other. And going from that to like just, kids have been born and people have gotten married, and like we've been there in like big moments of each other's lives, and we've spent countless hours and days on the road and in the studio. It's just been that's a unique thing, I don't have a lot of other friends that I think I've spent quite so much time with. And it's really awesome. And I think we're really lucky to just have, we happen to have come together and to be a group of people that not only work well together and like have talents that complement each other, but that we also just get along really well and that we love each other.
Got very lucky.
So that's that. There's our little sappy moment for today.
No, yeah, that's can't get much better than that, can you? That's well, at least you don't like hate each other more now. That's you've grown to love each other, not the opposite, I guess. That's good.
Well, I don't know.
Right.
Zach's gone quiet on this one.
Well, yeah.
Zach's like, no, I was thinking the opposite.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling Michael just how crazy it was, like, because Michael and I had been in each other's orbits for a while at school. So, like, we had an advertising class together, but we sat across the classroom, and then we worked at this television station together. But he was in Spanish, like he was translating everything into Spanish, and I was in advertising. So we sat across from each other, but we were in completely different departments and different languages. So we didn't talk. So I just seen this guy around, and then we were in the same songwriting class, but different periods. So like it was the same teacher, but just like different times. And so the only thing that brought us together was Grant, our mutual friend.
Thank
and
goodness
so,
for Grant.
He put the band together, but it's just really weird to think that like Michael was just some guy in my advertising class, and here we are 5 years later.
Yeah.
So weird.
Just like still hanging out.
So weird how like life happens like that, isn't it?
Same thing with Sandro. I met him at a hot tub party, and here we are 7 years later.
That's a whole podcast.
Yeah, it's another story.
Like you had also asked how like the world has kind of changed.
Yeah.
Since I guess what February 19th, 2016. I think that's when we became a band. Well, again, there's some obvious stuff that's happened. Some good, some not so good, I think. And we're all still kind of reeling from 2020 and figuring out how to sort of live life again, or even combine aspects of 2020 and how life was lived then, and try and figure out how that works now. But like we're doing this podcast over, this online service that lets us record this conversation, very recently, even, and spreading over the past, couple of years, there's been a huge push for, I think, acceptance and active acceptance of people, which I think is really cool. And I like to think, or I hope at least, that putting music and just like people putting art out into the world is something that can help people, right? That can help that along as well. We've heard from multiple people over the course of our 5 years together as a band. We've heard from people who have reached out and let us know that our music has changed their life, or even saved their life, right? And which is amazing to know that like something that I've experienced and that I've put into some kind of deliverable, consumable art form is something that someone else can resonate with and that can really impact them.
It's
and
incredible.
so the world is changing, right? In a lot of ways for the better, I think. Obviously, we don't need to get too into, how excited everyone is to just be mean to everyone else on social media. I don't love that trend. But there's some good out there as well. And I just hope that we can, they always say that like, there's it's a minority that's out there being like angry and like offensive and oppressive, right? But it's a really loud minority. And so I think maybe we can just hopefully do our part to make the majority of the people that are loving and that are accepting a little bit louder. And so that's why some of our songs are loud. But yeah, that's I don't know. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah. Just drown them out with kindness, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill them with kindness.
That's what it's all about.
Is that what you say?
Yeah.
Is that a bit morbid?
That's a bit aggressive, but yeah, you can say that too.
Aggressively positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so final question from us, and at the least, what's been your guys' highlight of Michael Barrow The Tourists over the last 5 years? If you can, let's pick one.
Ooh, one?
Well, two.
You get
maybe.
one.
Nope, you said it. You said
That's
it.
very
It's one.
strict on this.
The best thing that's happened in Michael Barrow and the Tourists over the past 5.5 years.
This is a tough one. It's like, name the best day of your life.
Honestly, I've said this a few times. February 19th, 2016 has probably been the best day of my life so far, because I had spent all day skiing with my friends, and I had a friend that came in from out of town, my best friend growing up. That's the day, actually, that my relationship with the girl that all my songs are about started. And it's also the day that we became a band, right? And
What a
so,
day.
What a day!
so much of what has happened over the past 5 years started on that day.
On that day.
That's crazy.
And so maybe it's a bit of a cop-out to say the first day was the best day. But like without it, we wouldn't, I don't know. So that maybe that's the starting point. I'm trying to think of like one singular moment since then. I have really enjoyed, especially with this album that we have just released, the times we spent in the studio, especially the last couple days of recording this album, were really new and unique and special for me and for us as a band. And we were able to get creative in ways that we hadn't in the past, and that is a really special memory for me, I think.
Lovely.
What
If
about
Michael's
you,
going to
Zach?
take the first day, I think I'm going to take the worst day. It's one of my favorites. So in 2019, was that the Battle of the Bands? Was that 2019? Yeah, 2019.
Yeah. Yep.
So Sandro and I had, in like a Hail Mary attempt to like put a lot of money in the bank so that we could pursue music full time. We had a bunch of friends who had been successful at sales, right? So we struck out, and Sandro set off to California with our families to sell solar power for a couple months. And it sucked. And we didn't make a lot of money. And so towards the end, we got offered to play this Battle of the Bands with like a $5,000 reward, right? And Sandra was like, well, at least I'm good at playing the bass, so let's leave early and just make some money and go play. We should be a shoo-in, right? So we showed up. We hadn't played in 2 months, right? But it was just another Hail Mary, like, let's just put everything on the line. And we didn't win. And everybody was sad. And it was just the culmination of like a couple really horrible months, and was probably the lowest point for us as a band. And we were all angry. And I remember Michael was just like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. And I was kind of feeling the same way. And so was Sandro. And Reed's just always been chill. So he's like, whatever, guys, let me know. But then we all just showed up again, and that's like one of my favorite memories. Is just that sometimes life is hard. It sucks. But 99% of success is just showing up, So if you just show up again and keep trying, and, it's improved significantly. The back half of 2019 was full of shows, full of high notes, but it wouldn't have been that way if we had quit, So that's one of my favorite days, just in context, is because we just showed up.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. That's another way to look at it, but that's really, really special as well.
Yeah. You all came back together in the worst times.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we also had some questions from the Alex Rainbow Music community. We normally do like a little segment on the podcast.
Yes.
These ones are actually from our Discord server.
Yeah, so first up we've got Hong, and he asked, why do you call the group The Tourists?
Yeah, when we first when we first formed the band, we I wanted to name the band, like just give it a normal band name. But at that time, the other guys were like, no, this is like your project, and like these are your songs. We're just the backing band, right? And but after a while, we came to a compromise that we would do a Michael Barrow and the something. And so then we spent like 4 months where like every single message in our chat was just Michael Barrow and then somebody typed something, and inevitably somebody hated it. And so we went back and forth for months trying to figure something out. And was it Sandro who was typing up on his phone, like using predictive text, Zach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, sometimes when I have downtime, I just open up my phone and type Michael Barrow and then type a letter and then see what pops up in the predictive text. And I guess Tourists had popped up, and it was the first one that nobody hated. And it also kind of worked because I had spent some time in Alaska as a tour guide. So like I'm the tour guide and they're the tourists. So that it all kind of came together. Plus it was pretty easy to like market. So we went with that, and it has stuck, and we like it.
I love it.
Yeah. It just works, doesn't it?
And then we had Bugs Fiend. They had quite a few questions. The first one was, what is one of your most meaningful fan encounters?
For me, one of my favorite fan encounters was with a guy named Joe Taylor Hawkins. And it was actually outside of a Cinders show. So we had played with Cinders, and anyway, he had come for Cinders, and he was just talking to us afterwards, and he and I just hit it off. And he was like, yeah, most of the time I come for the headlining band, and I'm not a fan of the opening bands, but he's just like, you guys are awesome. And so we started talking, and he was just like, yeah, I've been kind of writing music myself. Would you be interested in, maybe getting together, whatever? And I was like, sure, like, let's go. And he's like, all right, I'll buy you a pizza. So we got together, and he and I just started working on some songs together. And Joe was actually there that night of, the worst band night, when we all wanted to quit. And he ended up talking to me for like 3 hours that night. I was just like, dude, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. He's like, no, you got me into music. You have to keep doing it, and Joe and I have just been friends for 2 years now. So he's actually living in the UK right now. So you might run into him. But yeah, so that was just one of the things where I met somebody at a show. We became really good friends, and it gave back,
Yeah, that's so
Joe's a really good guy.
Yeah, that's probably what I was going to bring up too. Also, the other day we were at this like backyard song, I don't know, listening party sort of thing for like artists in the community that had songs coming out soon. And a couple of our fans, Nina and Lauren, came to that. And afterward they were like, do you guys want to do an escape room with us? So I did an escape room with them, and that was a lot of fun. We got out. So
good.
Amazing.
Cool. Not
You're
still
here
there.
today.
Yeah.
So yeah, they also asked, what genre of music could Michael Barrow The Tourists be labelled as? And are you strictly that label or more than that?
I have this stupid joke. Anytime anyone asks me, like if they find out I'm in a band, of course the next question is, what kind of music do you play? And I always say screamo rap. And then they're like, what?
What?
And like, no, I'm just kidding. So nowadays I think we're mostly considering ourselves like indie rock or indie pop, indie folk rock, right? But no, it's been kind of fluid. To answer kind of the second part of that question, we started out pretty much just as a folk band, or maybe an indie folk band, and then suddenly we were like this like vintage soul band, and now we're an indie pop band. So I think our sound is more just a product of like who we are. Like we sort of move between styles, but my voice is still my voice. And the way Sandro plays bass is still the way Sandro plays bass, and the way Zach plays, And so like we have kind of our
it's recognizable, definitely, whatever like era you were in. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't want to say like there are habits that we're stuck in, and so it always like comes out, but just we have our own styles of playing our own instruments, or like even writing lyrics. And so even though sometimes the genre, quote unquote, may change a little bit, it's still, within the Michael Barrow and the Tourists, universe.
Vibe, yeah.
Yeah.
Universe.
Cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's actually all the questions from the community, and we're coming to the end, sadly. So obviously you've literally just released an album, so no pressure, guys. But just in the future, what are you looking forward to, and do you have any exciting plans that you can share today?
There are some songs that we recorded that did not make this record. So those will be out eventually. We're, I guess, kind of still trying to figure out what that plan is going to be, but it'll probably be a pretty low key kind of like acoustic-ish kind of B-sides album, but
Nice.
That'll be fun.
That sounds great.
Kind of back to our roots, you know.
Yeah.
We've got a couple cover videos and songs that'll be coming out soon. We might put those on an EP as well. We'll just have to see. We recently released an Olivia Rodrigo cover that I'm particularly pleased with. I really like that.
We
performance.
Love that. Yeah.
And I don't know. Hopefully, coming soon to a city near you. I don't know. We don't have any solid tour plans yet, but the solid tour plan is that one day we want to go on tour again.
So as promised, this is an acoustic live performance of Momma Said, one of our favourite songs from Michael Barrow The Tourists' brand new album Clover, out now. We hope you enjoy.
Well, Mama said you look sad today. Don't you wanna go outside and play? It's up to you to feel this way. But son, you look kinda sad today. And I said, Mama, yes, I'm sad. If you only knew the day I've had. Just leave it be and don't tell Dad. 'Cause today I feel like feeling sad. 'Cause the world is falling apart and my house don't feel like home. And my girlfriend's getting married, but not to me. And God gave me a voice, but I also have a choice. And I want to be sad today. She said, son, I know the pain is real. It's not who you are, but it's how you feel. Just give it time and it will heal. But for now I know the pain is real. And I said, Mama, have you felt it too? Can you tell me how you made it through? 'Cause maybe what you said is true. Oh, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. When my world is falling apart and my house don't feel like home. And my girlfriend's getting married, but not to me. And if God plays a part, why's he hiding in the dark? And why am I so sad today? So when you're stuck inside your head, and when the setting sun won't set, just stand and face the day instead. Listen to what Mama said. Well, Mama said you look sad today. Don't you wanna go outside and play? Well, I just smile and go my way. 'Cause I don't have to be sad today. No, I don't have to be sad today. I don't have to be sad today.
So thanks so much for joining us today, guys. Where is the best place for people to find you and connect with you?
I think Instagram. The internet, right? I think Instagram in
Thanks
particular.
for that, Zach.
Yeah, we're probably a bit more active there.
Yeah.
And our community there kind of seems to be a little bit more active as well. So Instagram's a good place to get to know us. We also have a Patreon that we're kind of revamping right now. If you want to check that out as well, you can find a link to that in the bio of our Instagram as well. But yeah, connect with us, send us a message. Let's be friends.
Yes, so to everyone listening out there, thank you so much for listening, and make sure you join our Instagram and Discord server, which is where we always announce the next guest, and you can ask them questions and see loads more exclusive content as well.
Yeah, and another episode with an independent artist and performance will be coming in a few weeks, but all that's left to say is thank you so much, Michael and Zach, for joining us. And yeah, bye everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye guys. Thank you.